Okay, hello and welcome. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we are here for a new session examining Lifecycle Services for Dynamics AX. Today we're joined by Murray Fife, a solution architect with IBIS and Microsoft MVP. Murray's a returning speaker for us, and we're really thrilled to have him back. You may also know Murray for other work he does with AXUG, the writing he does on his own blog and through the Dynamics AX Companions program. And speaking of the AX Companions site and program, you'll want to stick around to the end of today's webcast for a special offer that Murray has for you just for being here today. And before we jump into the session, I just want to note a couple things going on with MS Dynamics World. As you may know, we had a really busy and fun fall 2014. We ran a whole bunch of new webcasts, and most of them are now online, available on demand. If you check out msdynamicsworld.com/webcasts, you can get access to any of those, filter them by the products you care about, by the industries or business needs you care about, and please check those out whenever it's convenient for you. And, coming up in our event schedule, we have a few more things in January. And really what we're looking forward to, though, in the future, what you can look forward to is a new series on financial automation, BI and reporting, and CRM, all starting in the April timeframe after Convergence. We're still building that program up. If you have any questions, if you're interested in presenting, if you'd like to learn more, you can always contact me. My email address is in the lower right of the screen here. So with that, I'm going to start handing things over to Murray to start the session. A reminder that you can ask questions during today's event. You can enter them into the chat or the Q&A blocks that you should see to the right of the presentation window. And I know Murray will be making time to answer your questions as well as he moves forward today. So without further delay, please allow me to hand the floor over to Murray Fife. Murray, are you there?
Yes, I am. So let me just find my mouse and share my desktop. Oops. Okay, and Jason, can you see my desktop now?
We do.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody. I'm really excited to talk about Lifecycle Services because it's really one of my three most favorite products from Microsoft. One's Dynamics AX, the other's Power BI, and then Lifecycle Services is also a really neat product and also a good resource and a useful resource for you all to use. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through all the main features of Lifecycle Services and sort of how you can get your feet wet, and also talk about some of the new improvements that they've had with Lifecycle Services as well. Because if you've been following the product, then because this is a completely cloud-based service delivered from Microsoft and it's free for anyone who's on maintenance, then it also has a really rapid development cycle, and things are being added left, right, and center. And even as I was preparing for this presentation, I was seeing new things that are really interesting that I'll share with you along the way. But just for those of you that maybe have heard about Lifecycle Services but not used it, or the people that are new to Lifecycle Services, this is a tool that really empowers the customers and also the partners to share and collaborate, and gives them a centralized place that everyone can share information, and also gives you a whole slew of different functions that you can take advantage of. And it's really designed to accommodate all of the different people that would be involved within an implementation, or even an ongoing support of an existing implementation of Dynamics AX. So, for example, you have the project managers that you want to have methodologies, and you want to track how the project is performing. You've got people that are trying to define gaps and track business processes. You've got the developers that are wanting to go out and modify business processes and get documentation, and also have cloud-based environments that they can test. Then also you've got the IT people that really need to do issue searches, they want to do diagnostics on the product, and they also want to sort of manage, support, and update with the application. All of this is built into really this one package that's delivered by Microsoft, and it's really tightly integrated with Dynamics AX so that you can take really full advantage of the system. So, for example, and I talked about this, the project manager needs to manage the system and the experience and the process. Then you've got the business analysts to manage the business processes, developers, and the IT administrators. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to really start off, and I'm going to go through all of the different features that are here, and hopefully we'll be able to get through most of them within this presentation. But the most important thing to know is just how to start off with Lifecycle Services. So, for example, if you're, here, so for example, if we open up a new web browser, then to get to Lifecycle Services, all you do is go to lps.dynamics.com. And that's going to bring you into Lifecycle Services, and if you're logged in, it will take you straight to your project. Otherwise, it's going to ask you to use your live ID to log in. Something, just as a side note, as we at IBIS have been bringing on customers, we've been using Lifecycle Services a lot because we think it's a great tool and a great methodology. But what you need to do if this is if you're a new customer, then you need to have a live ID configured against the account which you use in Customer Source. And then there is usually a little bit of collaboration backwards and forwards between the setup of Lifecycle Services and the inviting people, and also the registered partner, because they need to set you up in voice with that connection. So this sort of brings us to the next stage where I went into Lifecycle Services. And everything, really the heart and soul of Lifecycle Services is the project dashboard. So this is where you can go out and you can access all the information. And we saw that here as I went in and looked at my project that I've set up here. So I've got some information showing up here. It's really a single point of access for all of the content, and it's designed to be using the new modern look, and also to have different options here as we're browsing through our project. If we wanted to create a new project, then we could just create one from that main screen that we had before. But I've got one set up already that I'm going to use for this presentation. So if we look at this, it's showing us our implementation project that we'll talk about in a second, all of our documents that we've got associated with our Lifecycle Services project or the implementation. And then also we've got all of these tools, which I'm going to go through in a lot of detail, that allow you to manipulate or to track and access resources directly here through Lifecycle Services. Also, we have an area for project management where we have users and settings, but all of this is managed here through this first project portal. So if we start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about these areas and how you can take advantage of them. But the first area that I want to talk about is something that is new to Lifecycle Services, or new to the latest release that I think came out either in January or December. And that's this concept of a project methodology. So one of the things that you can do within Lifecycle Services is at a very high level, you can track the project and track all of the different stages and also lay out the project. Now, some people want to use the agile implementation methodology. Some people may want to use more of a traditional waterfall implementation, or you have some sort of hybrid approach within the system. So the methodology that gets delivered with Lifecycle Services is completely customizable. But from a tracking standpoint, here within Lifecycle Services, everyone has access to our methodology with all of our steps. And if I click on these, for example, I go into the pilot training or the business process analysis, then we'll see all of the steps here. And then the other benefit is that if I click on any of these steps, then we have the complete description of the step, resources, and also documents that are associated with this business process. Now, I can also modify this. So if I click up here, I can say I want to edit my methodology, or I can change to another one. And what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to add steps, add stages, add milestones to our project, and also sort of tweak it a little bit. So, for example, I've got a methodology here which is a standard agile process, but I personally think that before you even go and do the business process analysis, you should go out and, as a customer, have training on AX so that maybe you have an idea of what the system does before, so that then you can go out and link it back to your methodologies. So I went in and I added all of these training sessions which you could have at the beginning of the project. And also I've linked out to resources here. So if I click on this, it's actually going to take me out to a website with some training guides on it, and then I can say that I went through all of these stages. So if I return back to my process methodology, then we'll see that my pilot training here is completed, and as we complete these, we can just mark them off the list and use this partly as our status report. So all of this gives you a high-level view as to what's going on and how things are being managed. Now, something else that's interesting here is if I move back to the initial, or the standard agile methodology, then this is, has a lot of the rapid start documents built into this. So if I click on the project plan, then there are resources that show up here. So for example, for my project plan, there's a project template for implementing Dynamics AX, and if I click on that, it's going to open up that project. And now I can see my agile implementation with times and dates and all of the stages here that I can start using as my standard project. I can then go out and, if I wanted to use this and manipulate it, say for example I saved it away down here to my desktop and close this down, then what I can do is I can upload this as my project document, and now I have, everyone has access to this document and it's stored away within the system. So we have resources that are linked here, and we also have the documents that we link to the project so that we have different milestones, and all of these things are recorded. Now, this sort of brings up the next item, which is SharePoint integration. So the thing is, Lifecycle Services is not a, or Microsoft haven't made Lifecycle Services really a document repository, partly because they probably don't want to be inundated with all of these files that you track within your project. But the good thing is that they've incorporated the links to SharePoint. So if I return back to here, as I was going out and saving documents away, and see I've got a document that's been applied here, then these documents are being stored away within SharePoint Online within my site. So what the best thing to do is create an Office 365 site or an internal SharePoint site, and then just link it online. If I go over to my settings over here, then I can just tell it, based on my site here, where do I want to pull that up? Where do I want all of these documents to be stored? SharePoint Online is the best place, mainly because everyone has access to it, and you don't have to give people VPN access to the internal servers in order to collaborate with partners and other people within the project. So any time that I go and save my documents away, then these are going to be shared or saved automatically in SharePoint. So if I move over here and move over to my SharePoint site, then you'll notice that my project plan was automatically assigned here and just filed away against all of the documents that I've got for this project or for my implementation. So the integration with SharePoint gives you the document repository and also allows you to do everything that you'd want to do with documents. You can share it, you can sync it down to Outlook, you can do all of the things that Office allows you to do. So the ability to file documents away and store them away and then have them securely managed through SharePoint is really a key feature, and that was something that was just added into Lifecycle Services. Now, so up until now, we've really been talking about just the project management, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start showing you some of the features that the business analyst is going to use. So, for example, the business analyst wants to track business process models. They want to go and track all of the sort of detailed information, all the requirements, or the licensing, or the infrastructure requirements, or get hardware specs that are associated with the project. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of these things that allow the business analysts to get better information and also information more quickly within the system, especially when this is a new implementation where you may not understand everything about Dynamics AX as a customer, but you're just trying to get information and get templates and move through the system. Now, the first area that within Lifecycle Services, and one of the most visible areas is this idea of the business process modeler. When people go out and they start implementing Dynamics AX, and the first thing you really do is you say, how does Dynamics AX work? What's the best business processes? And then does that fit the business that we're running right now? Do we need to change it? Or how should we do things based on best business practices? And a lot of the times, or in the past, you'd really start off with a blank sheet of paper, and then maybe the partner will start mapping things out. Or maybe there are Visio diagrams that have already been generated, which is best business processes, and maybe you start with those and they give you an idea of how to use the system. If I return back to here and go into my project dashboard, and we'll start looking at some of these tools that we've got here. There's a link up here which is for the business process modeler. If I open that up, it's going to take me into a library of different business processes. Now, down on the right-hand side, I have all of the standard global libraries. These are the standard templates that are delivered by Microsoft. Then also there's corporate libraries, which are your standard libraries that maybe you want to use as templates. So partners can create these, and also customers can create these. So if you're doing a large implementation where you're going out and maybe rolling out different variations for different countries, for example, then as a implementation you can create this golden template and then use that as a foundation for all of the sort of sub-implementations that you're doing. Also, there are templates here that we'll look at in a second that are based on industry. So there's a template here for professional services, retail, discrete, manufacturing, and also the standard, and I need to make sure I get this name right. There are standard business processes that have been defined that cover almost all of the major functions within Dynamics AX. If I look at this library, then it's going to take me into sort of like a hierarchy of business processes that are broken out by different features and functions, or different groups or business processes. So, for example, if I look at the delivery of products, and maybe I look at go down into the procurement of services, and then maybe the ordering of services, and then I look at one of these business processes. Everywhere where there's a little flowchart that shows up here means that there is a standard business process that's been defined. So you can see that Microsoft, and these are the standard ones that are generated by Microsoft themselves, then there's a number of different business processes that are here, and you can go and look at these. So if, for example, you're thinking, how do I create a purchase order? Then the standard business procedure here has already been laid out, and we can see all of the business processes, and also we have the swim lanes that say who are the people that are involved in this, and also that rolls back into security because we can see these different people and then what functions they're going to be performing. Now, these are standard or global business processes, so these are more templates. If I return back here to look at my libraries, you'll see that I've got a number of these already configured. Now, if I right-mouse click on any of these processes, then I can just click on copy and it will add it to my library, which I've done. So I've got these here. If I click on one of these, then what it allows me to do is it allows me to go into the standard business processes that we've got. And 3 and 4, and we have the same diagrams showing up here, but it does give us the option now that this is our standard template to go out and drag business processes here into the diagram. Or, for example, if we want to make standard documentation from this, then I can just click this export, and it's going to export it out as a Visio diagram, and then that can become part of our standard documentation. So, let me take that down. But this is a starting point. I'll show you in a second where we can go out and sort of manipulate this and create gap lists. Something else that you can do once you've created your business processes is you can even edit this structure as well. So if there's a step that you need here, for example, track vendor, solicit vendor quotes, maybe you want to add another level here that is for the creation of an RFQ. Then you can go into edit mode, and then all you do is just drag and drop a task down here, and it's going to create a step for you that you can edit, and you can expand this out, and then I can go out and manipulate this, change it, and change these business processes. So this is sort of like manual adjustments. Also, if you don't have a flowchart already, you can even upload Visio diagrams for your standard business processes. So this, we'll look at this in a second, using it for different tools. But this business process library has all of the standard best practices as defined by Microsoft and gives you a starting point for your implementation or re-implementation of Dynamics AX, because you don't have to go out and develop all of these business processes or all these flows, because it's done for you. So another tool that's useful, and you may even experience this if you're a new customer, you may have experienced this before even starting your implementation or before even signing the Dynamics AX, because the partner may use this. I use this all the time because it saves me so much time, and it helps customers sort of work out, or prospects work out how many users they need. And this is a tool called the license sizing estimator. Now, how this works is that when you go out and one of the tasks that you need to do is you need to make sure you have enough licenses, and you need to make sure you have the right licenses. And in the past, it's been a little bit confusing because you don't know whether you need a functional or a task-based user or an enterprise user, and all of these are defined by the roles within the organization. So here, within the licensing estimator, you can go out and say how many employees and how many external vendors are you going to use, and then the first time that you start this up, it's actually going to say what departments are part of this as well. So you can see I've got all of my different functional departments here, and I've got a number of user licenses that I've assigned. So for example, if I want to add another role to project accounting, then I could do that, and it's going to give me, that's a bad example there. Let me go into, let's see, production. Planning, I'm trying to, and I've used up all of my roles, so I'm trying to find one that works. But if any of the roles that are associated with the organization, you can just go and say I want to add a role, and I'm saying I want this many users, and it's going to go out and say how many, whether this is task, functional, self-service, or enterprise user. So really as part of the initial implementation or the initial quoting, then this goes out and is used to say how many users and for what types of users. But it has one added benefit, that it gives you this report that shows you all of the different user counts and also gives you a breakdown of the users. So here I'm going to run my report. It's going to take all of this information that we had. It's going to give us a summary of all of the user licenses and so forth. And then also it's going to tell me how many enterprise, functional, and task-based users I need. And once you have that, then licensing is pretty straightforward because you know the license fees are pretty set. And then also it gives you a distribution of the CALs, and then you can use that just for managing your quote and making sure that you have the right licenses for the right users. Now, this also has another function where we can go out and we can track. We can use it to start calculating what our usage bandwidth would be and also how we want to roll this out. So another tool that you'd use as you're really doing the planning for the implementation is this tool that's called a usage profiler. Now, so there's a couple of things that are built into this that you may use during the pre-sale side or the re-implementation side, but also it's a good thing to track whether you're going to be underpowered with your hardware and also your profiles. So how we use this is if I return back to my project screen, then there's a tool here which is called the usage profiler. If I click on that, it's going to take me into a form which allows you to estimate the transaction load on the Dynamics AX, and also it's going to allow you to sort of tweak what functions are going to be used and also a lot of the deployment information. Now, something that happens is that when you can go in and import in all of the standard business processes that are defined within the system, and that's going to give you a list of these business processes here. And underneath each of these, for example, payroll, then there'll be a number of questions. So when do you pay? Is it bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, and so forth? And then how many transactions are you going to have? Or if we go into some of the more detailed information like the customer, then you'll see that there's a lot more information here that's used to profile the organization. Now, you don't need to update this information, though, here online. You can take that offline because once you import in your business processes, then you can download an Excel template that has all of this information in it, update it, and then upload it back into the system. And then that will start giving you or pre-populating some of this information. Also, what you can do is you can start tracking other components around the project, including any custom reports, any ISV products that you're using within your implementation, and also any sites that are here. Now, this one's especially interesting Because what it allows you to do is it allows you to define the site and say how many users are going to be there, what's the bandwidth that's going to be here, and also when are people going to be using the system. So if you have sites all around the world, then the concurrent peak usage is going to be very important because you may spread out the actual load of users over different time zones. So I've gone out and I've said that I've got sort of like a night shift working for a couple of hours. Then I have all 150 people here working 8 to 5 within my system. Now I'd go out and I'd create additional sites to model how the users are going to be accessing this. But what it allows me to do then is it allows me to create a report based on my usage, and then we'll see the peak times that are here, any areas where we're going to have problems with throughput or utilization, and also just some statistics and performance information around our profile. So it's helping us sort of make sure that we're sized correctly, and then also that we're not going to be overloading Dynamics AX. And you can see that for my implementation, I'm starting to sort of get over the peak usage based on all of the questions that I answered within the system. So again, making sure that you don't get into trouble before you even start the project is important, and using these tools is a great way to do it. One final area that we'll look at is a thing that's the infrastructure estimator. Now, if you're re-implementing, or if you're moving to the cloud or moving to Azure, or if you're wanting to know how much hardware to buy, then you don't have to do the normal sort of fire drill where you ask your partner and they sort of go out and say, this is sort of what you need. You can do this all yourself. And it's based off the recommendations from Microsoft, and they may be conservative recommendations, so you may want to up them a little bit, but there's still recommendations that you can quickly grab. So again, if I return back to Lifecycle Services, then I can tell the system that I want to look at my infrastructure estimator, and then I can tell the system I want to create an estimate for maybe a production system, or maybe for a test system or a training system. Then I say, how many servers do I need? And what it's going to do is it's going to create the specification for us that says, for this development system, we're probably going to need an AOS server, SQL Terminal Services server. This is the recommended memory that we need. It's also, in this case, I said that I want to host this on the cloud. So it's assuming that these servers are Azure servers, and if you click on it, it's actually going to take you straight over to Azure, and we can go out and tell the system that I want to, what sort of service do I want, and you have the server name, and then we can just tweak these and we can create, that's actually a website. We can look at the virtual machines and the types of virtual machines that we've got here, and it will tell us what the hourly rate is based on the configuration that we select. So if we choose A4, which is a little bit more powerful, and so we need 2 servers here, and then maybe a SQL Server database, then we're going to have all of our licensing, and it will show us what our monthly cost is for this infrastructure based off the standard Azure pricing. So this is a neat feature, and Microsoft, of course, are sort of trying to move people to Azure, which is a great platform, but it's there and available for you to use. Let me just go back to here. So these are all of these tools, the licensing estimator, the infrastructure estimator, the business process modeler, is a starting point that really gets you through the definition phase of the implementation, and also allows you to, as a customer, it allows you to collaborate with your partner, and also it allows you to sort of have standards which everyone's following, so that maybe you just tweak it and polish it, or a little bit of extra knowledge from the partner comes in, but it's it's consistent and it's repeatable, and it's a location that everyone can access. Now, the next area that we're going to talk about, though, is really about the deployment or the development or managing customizations, or even saying, do we need customization? And this is where you go out and the project manager and the developer get together and work through the system. But before we do that, something that people always ask for, or one of the hurdles a lot of times with new implementations, or for example, if you just want to look at a system, is that you've got Dynamics AX, or you want to see R3, and you don't want to go through all of the hoops that you need to do in order to install a on-premise system for development or testing or just review. So what you can do is Lifecycle Services is linked to Azure. And if you have an Azure account, then you can go out and you can fire up virtual machines that are based off the standard demo image, or even entire development systems that are provisioned and blank to start off with, that you can start using as a developer. Now, so this is the cloud deployment option, or cloud hosted environment. If I look at this, then what you are going to need to do is you have to link Lifecycle Services with your Azure account. And that's pretty straightforward. All you do is you go into the settings and you have a certificate and you download it, and that will link you over to Azure, where you can store all of your virtual machines and also start them up and stop them and track the usage and all of those good things within the system. If, for example, you wanted to create a temporary test system, maybe you want to do training, or maybe and you just want to get it up and running, it'll probably cost you about, I think, around about $400 or $600 to run a virtual machine for an entire month. But if you want to just go and have a virtual machine, maybe for a couple of days, then this is also a great way to do it. All you do is you click and say, I want to create a new hosted environment. Is this a copy of the demo environment, or do I want to create a testing system? If this is a demo system, then what do I want to create? I want to go out and create a CU8 image. And then all I need to do is give it a name, and then agree to the terms and say, yes, I'm going to pay the Azure cost. And it will create the virtual machine for you. I deployed this out this morning. It took around about an hour for the server to get deployed and rolled out and up and running. But that's a lot quicker than going out and downloading the virtual machine and then trying to hook it up to an internal Hyper-V environment. Then if I move over to here, you can see all of the different servers that I've got set up, and we can also see how much was being used and what the performance was on that. And this is associated with my account. And a word of warning, if you make sure you turn the virtual machines off when you're not using them. It's easy just to spool them up. You can restart them and they're fine. But if you don't stop them, then you're going to incur the hourly rate or the daily rate for the server to be set up. But really the important tool here is that you can go out and for a testing or a training session, just create a standard image with all of the Microsoft features and functions built in here, and it's not hard to do. Now, once you've gone out and you've got this test environment, then you can start using another tool, which is the task recorder. For those of you that have used have used Dynamics AX, and you've probably used the task recorder before, because it's a useful tool. It goes out and creates all the documentation for you, and just by itself, and that's great. But if you're on earlier versions of AX, so if, for example, you're on, I think, C6 or earlier maybe, then when you move to the later versions, then Task Recorder changes a little bit because it's been designed to integrate with Lifecycle Services. So if I move over here, go into my system and return to AX, and I'll pull up the Task Recorder that I've got saved here. Then the Task Recorder itself is a really good tool to use. And something that you'll notice is that all of these links here are mimic the hierarchy that's been set up within the standard business process models. And that's no coincidence, because this is a way that you can record your own business processes, and as they're associated with your company. But really where the Task Recorder comes in is, say for example, if I could just go into here into procurement, and I want to record a requisition, or I want to record the business processes associated with it. Or maybe if I want to go down here to monitor or manage the supplier information, then to start creating your documentation, all you do is click Start, and then I'm going to go to All Vendors, and then maybe I want to open up a vendor. It's going to take me into a form. Maybe I want to change this to a different ABC code. And then all I do is I say Stop. So as for documenting the system, you document it by doing it, and it's going to track all that for you. You'll notice here that there's a lot of links here which are the light gray, but now I've got one that's blue, which means that I have a document that's being generated associated with this business process. If I click on the document option, then in the background here, if I grab it fast enough, then notice it created a Word document for me with all of the steps that I performed and what I did when I entered in the information. So it really created my documentation. There's a trick that, there's a template out there, it's not really a trick. You can change this document template so it's your standard documentation format. And then really by going through and using the Task Recorder, then it created this business process. But where this comes in, becomes more useful is that you go out and you create all of your business processes, and then you record them like I did here. And then you build a package, and finally you move back over here to Lifecycle Services. And you take that package that you created, open up the business process model, and upload it directly from the file that you had. What that will do is that will create a custom business process model for the area here with just the business processes that you've defined. So we can see here that I've got my establishing credit policies. If I click on that, it's going to take me into the form. And it's going to have the standard business flow that I've defined. Now I went one extra step here, and I told the system that I wanted to add in some additional information. So I wanted to say, even though this is how we use Dynamics AX right now, we need to do something else, and this sort of introduces the next phase, which is tracking gaps. So if I wanted to add some information here, maybe a receipt of an email, and then add this to the form, add it to the validation, link it up here to the receipt, and you can rearrange these to make these look tidier. Then I've gone out and I've told the system that this is a new function that I want to perform. And also with this, I had the validation. I went straight back to the set up the parameters, but I wanted to send an email through a workflow and then someone get notified as well. And also we can create additional swim lanes here, and we can tweak this. We can also look at this information, save it away, and also edit it, and edit all of the functions that are associated with it. Now, what this does is this starts creating our gaps for us. And the gaps are really based on the deviations from the standard business processes that we have within Dynamics AX. Because we either need to change a business process or we need to make a coding change to the system to incorporate something or create a workflow in the case of the email. So every change that we make here goes out and creates a gap. If I click on the gap list and leave this page, it's going to take me into the form that shows me all of the different gaps that we've got set here in the system. It's going to show us what the business processes they were associated with. And also I can export this out as a standard gap document or gap list. Or I can say, you know, this really isn't a gap, so I want to remove this, and it takes it from the list, and then we can say, has this been completed? Has this been, what do we need to do with this? So it's automatically documenting all of these things for you. Now, this is also good because if I return back here to my business process, my solution defined, then one of the stages here is going to be do a gap fit analysis, where we go and look at our business processes and then lay them out and adjust them so that they fit the business. So if I click on that, then there's a resource here for the gap analysis, which is a standard form from RapidStart. And then also we have this file, which is the gap analysis that I exported out of that main form, and I've saved it away inside of this list. So if you're doing the Agile implementation for each of these sprints, you may go out and have different gap analyses, or different documents associated with them saying these are the what we're going to tackle with each sprint, and this is storing all the documentation away for you. So this is, the gap analysis is sort of built into the system. Now the final, so we've gone through, and the development portion is going to be an ongoing process. But there's also a lot of tools that are available here within Lifecycle Services that are for the administrators. Because a lot of the times the administrators are looking for information, they're doing issue searches, they're trying to look up information, they're trying to manage the system. So there's a third or a fourth sort of group of tools that we can look at within Lifecycle Services really to help streamline the process. Now the first one is the issue search. And this is really, all of these tools that I'm going to show you in a second really feed directly back to Microsoft and to the Microsoft knowledge base. So one of the things we have here is I can go out and say, for example, we've come up against what we think is a bug or something squirrely is happening, and I can just click on this issue search, and then I could say sales pricing. I can type in a keyword. And what that's going to do is that's going to look at all of the known issues and the any reported issues, whether they've been fixed or not. So as you can see, this isn't static. This is showing you that actually someone reported the original price errors on the retail themselves for override. It's under investigation. So this is a live link back to Microsoft. If there's something here that is being solved, then if you click on it, it's going to take you directly into the information from Microsoft on this item, including the ability to download the hotfix directly from here, and also what changes have been made. And also you can do an analysis of the changes and view the changes so that you know what you're getting into with these hotfixes. So you can really, as a customer, you can empower yourself to do research and find and do exactly what the partners would be doing, which is trying to search through Microsoft to find out if this really is an issue. But it's here through Lifecycle Services. Now, once you've gone out and researched this, and maybe you can't find an answer to it, then you can go out and create support tickets here through Lifecycle Services as well. That brings us to the next area, which is the cloud-powered support. And for an implementation, this is a really key feature, and it's something that is Microsoft are really changing the way that support happens. And I'll explain it a little bit here within the system. Now, also, this is, as a partner ourselves, then we use this cloud-powered support for all of our customers that are on Lifecycle Services because it allows us to do some things. It allows us to go out and see all of the incidents that are in the system and also create new incidents directly here through Lifecycle Services. So if there's if you have come across something, then you create a new instance. It's going to go straight back to Microsoft. And then it has another feature that Microsoft will go out and they'll provision a virtual machine for you. I don't think you have to pay for it. And they will try to recreate the issue. If they can't, they'll ask you to recreate the issue in this virtual machine. Then they'll go back in and look at what you did and how the issue was created, find out whether it was user error or whether it's a bug. Then they'll create the fix, they'll apply it to the virtual machine that's provisioned, and then ask you to test it, and then if it works how you want it to, then they'll give you the update. So it's a more collaborative approach to going out and creating incidents and also support. But this is a change in, for example, just calling up the support and saying, such and such doesn't work, and then they say, how did you do it? And then sort of everyone working off disconnected systems because Microsoft has this infrastructure around Azure to help you. Now, the final portion that I'll talk about here in the presentation for the IT staff is really having access to all of the updates. And click over here. I can download directly from Lifecycle Services any cumulative updates that have been released out, any patches that have been released out, or and also run use features like the upgrade analysis to work out what these changes or what these cumulative updates are going to impact within your existing system. Something I'm not showing is you can link your Dynamics AX system up to Lifecycle Services, and it will sort of monitor the system and also look at all of the changes that you've made so that before you run an upgrade, Lifecycle Services already knows where the impact is going to be through this upgrade analysis. So again, because this is a cloud-hosted solution that you can link, that links to Microsoft and also links down to your implementation of Dynamics AX, then it gives you a lot more power and a lot more sort of insight into the application, and also allows Microsoft to access it as well. And so all of these are just functions and features that you can take advantage of. So what I've done over the past 50 or so minutes is I haven't shown you all of the features within Lifecycle Services. There's a lot more here and a lot of nuances on how you can set these up and how you use them, but it's really a quick overview to show you how, for example, you can link out and start using Lifecycle Services as your sort of project management tool. You're still not going to throw away your project files or some other tools that you may be using, but it does allow you to collaborate and use this as a stored location. Also, as a customer, an important thing to keep in mind, this is your project. It's not the partner's project. You invite the partner to the project so that they can work with you. So you're having this free resource that you pick and choose who you invite to it, and also it becomes a place that a new consultant coming in from a partner or a new partner coming in, either way, they can access the history, they can look at your projects, they can see all of the documentation, and it's free, or it's free with maintenance, so it's almost a free gift from Microsoft. But so this is just a great tool and something that really I think everyone should be using because of what's in here. Also, as I mentioned right at the beginning, since this is a cloud-based solution, there are things happening and changing here and new features being added in almost on a monthly basis. So if you go out and look at the Lifecycle Services blog, then you'll be able to follow all of these changes and all of the tweaks. And this has changed a great deal since the first version when it came out. So I'm going to take a breath and see if there are any questions about anything that I've shown you. And then before I sort of open, or Jason opens it up for questions, I'll also mention that a while ago I wrote a guide on the first version of Lifecycle Services. And if you go to the Dynamics AX companion site, and if you're already registered, use the RSVP code of Silicon Valley, and you'll be able to go down and download this book for free and have access to it. So it goes through a lot more and a lot more examples and also a lot more detail of how, for example, you deploy out an Azure cloud-based system and how you link up all of your Azure services to Lifecycle Services. So I'm going to move back and stop, take a breath, and see if there are any questions about anything that I've shown.
All right, great job, Murray. Yeah, there's several questions already coming in, and I would invite anyone who has them to get those into the queue right now, and we'll go through as many as Murray has time for. So the first question came in, point of information, I suppose, is just asking, can you show where the task recorder is located?
So, and that's really easy. It's always, let's go back to here. So let me close this down. The task recorder for anyone who, let me close this down. If you go up to the Files menu within Dynamics AX and go Tools, then Task Recorder has always been here in the Tools menu. So once you click on that, it's going to open it up, and it's going to bring you into this form. And there's a lot of other things that you need that you can do with creation of the framework and the industry. But it's always just within the File, Tools, and Task Recorder menu. Now, if you're on an earlier version of AX, then you may see a different version of this, but there's a patch to upgrade to this new version of the Task Recorder that then links into Lifecycle Services even for earlier versions of AX.
All right, a couple of business process modeling questions here, and then I'm going to sort of combine. Can diagrams be exported to Visio, and is there versioning supported for BPMs? So if there's a current and a future version that have gaps, can that be managed?
Yeah, so a good question and an easy question. So you can have multiple versions of your business process model. So you can see all of the different versions as you're going and manipulating and as you're changing them. So here you can see that I've got my current one and then one I did before that I could go back and I could look at, which is actually the original version. And if I wanted to revert to that, then I could just change that and make that the standard one. Also, this export option, let me activate that. So also this export option allows you to go out and it will create a Visio diagram for you. So that does exactly what you're asking for. So that then you can, what you do is you use the standard business processes, you model, you make the changes, and then export them out to Visio, and then that allows you to use it for other documentation or other business processes. And just as a side note, something that I just remembered I really didn't talk about, let me go back to here. And I think I can do this. as you're going out and creating your business processes, think if you click this documentation here, then it should, then what that has done is that's created a document for me. That should document all of my business processes and all of my process flows. So I'm going to close this down and do this again because it's very important. So you go out and you have all of your standard business processes that you define, and you create whatever hierarchies you want, and you have the business processes recorded. You just select the higher level hierarchies, and it needs to be this top level, and then you click on the document, and it creates really a document that describes every business process that you've defined and also has all of the steps all in one document. So if I went out and did this for my deliverable products and services, it would be a larger document, but it's doing all the work for me. So I think I should have talked about that, but that's a really neat feature.
All right. So several more questions that come in here. I'm going to try to move through them. When you try the new preview with SharePoint, does the project move over okay? So now I'm using and I think the question's talking about the classic view for Lifecycle Services and the preview, which is the beta release. Everything moves over, or as far as I can tell. I've had projects that that I've set up and then I migrated over to this version and everything was fine. If anyone, I actually have a preference for this because it gets rid of some of the less tidy tools like having different project types for learning and pre-sales and then implementation, and also has a better user interface as well, where you can see all the information in the modern view and a better view. But as far as I know, or with all the testing that I've done, it just flows through. The only things that wouldn't be there would be the methodology, or it'll go with the standard methodology, and you can go and change those as well. All right. Is there a certain version of IE required to use with a new version of LCS? I'm not sure about. So okay. I think because I know it's got to be all HTML5 for all these components. So the only way to know is just to try it. Right. Can we generate a license sizing report based on actual customized uploaded model files?
And I think the answer to that is I think the answer is yes, but what you need to do is, and I'm not quite sure about the model sizing, but the usage profiler, if, for example, you add an additional business processes or have ISVs with different model files associated with it, then I think that's going to change it as well. I really haven't tinkered around with that. It's something that maybe we can talk to Microsoft about.
Okay, yeah, and the follow-up question was, or whether it's strictly prediction for prediction purposes up front. Will BPM gaps map to TFS work items in the future? And that is a really good question. I was trying to set this up because I had my TFS online here, but my username, so I went out and I created my TFS project for Uncle. And I was adding in the users, but because I had different domains here, then I wasn't able to actually get it working and get it set up. But if you go over here to the work item, then if you change the storage, you can actually go to TFS online and use that to manage all of the work items and all of the tasks. Something that Lifecycle Services doesn't really do as well as it should right now, but it's probably going to change,
is that all of these issues that you create are going to be linked back to TFS. And so that allows you to create, do your scrums and create your work boards and all the sprint things that you do as a developer. And then when if you have this linked back to TFS, then this information is going to update automatically. But the gap list is still really just informational. The gaps don't pop over here into the work item list. So hopefully what Lifecycle Services will do is they'll allow you to create a work item from a gap, which sort of makes sense. But the TFS linking is there right now within the new version of Lifecycle Services.
All right. 2 more questions here. Is there a for the CU8 APQC, are the models out there now? And I guess, and where would I find, and the other, I guess, follow-up question here, where would I find the APQC R3 project in Lifecycle Services?
Yeah, so the APQC project is going to be here within the global library. So there's the R3, but I don't know whether this is CU8. I probably doubt it because it's, since it's just saying R3. But this would, the APQC here would probably be for 2012 R2 as well. So you're going to find them here within the global library. And I think that's what the question is. And all you need to do is to create them is just to copy them and to upload them. There's also the other side of the coin, which is the task recorder sort of structure, and then where it has all of the hierarchies and the business processes. And that you'll find that in one of the resources or one of the programs within Dynamics AX itself. I think I answered the question, but I'm not quite sure. But as a side note, let's talk about the corporate libraries that are here. And these are, as a customer, these can be your standard templates, but from partners will probably create a number of corporate libraries as well that they use really to refine the business processes for the customers in specific industries. So you'll probably find variations of this version popping up here in the corporate library when, depending on which partner you're working with.
All right, great. We have one other question, and it's more about your book, Murray. Do you want to show people a little more specifically how they can download that? We can also follow up after the event with an email, but yeah.
So let me for those of you that haven't seen it, then I've got a website or a resource that I've got for the Dynamics AX Companion, so it's dynamicsaxcompanions.com. If you scroll down, there's some configuration blueprints that are here. And then I've got different resources here showing you how to do things like developing a product approval workflow, but also one here for Lifecycle Services where I put all of my notes when I documented it and how I could access it. And there's an ebook here. In order to download the ebook, you need to be a subscriber, but if you go in and register, let me just, and then sort of not the easiest thing, you go into your account and then go to your services and scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you type in Silicon Valley, then that will subscribe you to the book, and then all you have to do is go back here, go down to, if I'm jumping too quickly into the guides here, go down, find the form again, and then click on the book. And if all my security was right, then that will gives you the PDF version of this book with about 350 pages of steps on how to set up Lifecycle Services. So let's just go through, and you'll see that I have logging into Lifecycle Services with the classic view, accessing it, and then moving through all the steps. It's for the older version of Lifecycle Services, but all of the mechanisms are still pretty much the same. So the key thing is that you can go in, register, go to your account page, and then just type in Silicon Valley, and then you'll have access to this book for free. It's a free prize just for you all.
All right, excellent. We appreciate you bringing that to everyone here. Well, that concludes our questions. And Murray, I just want to say thanks for taking all the time to share so much LCS knowledge with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. I really think this is an important tool, and everyone should be using it because it's really going to be used by Microsoft a lot for support, for hosting, for all of these things, and also the partners should be using it as well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on that. We did record today's session. We'll be making that available. I know some folks already have said they want to make sure other coworkers see it. So, yeah, stay on the lookout for that. We'll be getting it up soon. With that, we will conclude the session. Please do look for a survey at the end. We really appreciate your feedback on how these sessions are going for you. So that concludes the event. Thanks and have a great day.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.